So, okay, then thank you very much for the invitation also, again, from the SOTER Project. I'm here today and jumping in for Eva Griesbacher to present to you some research and innovation action we are doing within the SOTER Project. I'm really happy to be here. I really like the setup and also the interdisciplinary wide of contributions. We've seen something from the legal perspective, from the technical perspective, now from the statistical perspective, and I think it really shows that an interdisciplinary approach to cybersecurity is very much needed across the world, and especially in Europe, we're showing hopefully how it can be done successfully. So my presentation actually comes from a sociological background, as I am a sociologist and also focusing a lot on research around the trustworthiness of ICT products and services, as well as with focus on cybersecurity, human factor-based aspects of cybersecurity. So just to give you a bit of context, the Horizon 2020 project SOTER is called in full name Cybersecurity Optimization and Training for Enhanced Resilience in Finance. It has two key objectives. You could also say two key pillars on content we are working on. The first one and the primary one is a technological pillar. It's designing and developing a digital onboarding process for financial institutions, especially for banks. And the second one is more, you could say, non-technological, but of course, it's very much connected to technology and digital processes. It's developing a cybersecurity competence training tailored to the needs of the extended finance sector. So extended, I say, because we know today, because of the PSD2, we have a lot more players in the field, thinking about fintechs and third-party providers. So the field gets a little bit larger, and of course the risk surface because of this is getting bigger. The principal investigators for this research I have to name, it's not just me from RISE, it's also Eva Maria Griesbacher and Paul Rabel from University of Graz, and Robin Renwick from Trilateral Research Ireland. The other partners, the coordinator is Everis, and Everis Aerospace and Defense in Spain, as well as Liberbank, helping us with piloting our solutions, and Spanish Mint, Real Casa de la Moneda, and also Inov and Trunomi in the United Kingdom, helping with technologies for the onboarding process. So to jump in now, the focus is on the second pillar for this presentation. It's about getting a better grip on human factor related risks in cybersecurity, because right now I think we have quite a blurry image. We know with these sentences saying, okay, there's not only sometimes problems are not within the IT, within the computer, sometimes or quite often actually they're sitting in front of the computer, and we have to tackle this risk, this vulnerability layer of financial institutions and other related organizations. Just as a baseline, I'm using this kind of for every presentation I'm doing for SOTER. I think it's a good baseline for understanding what we are actually trying to protect, where the risks are, which we want to look at when we look at it from a human factor oriented perspective. So generally, it's about, when we think about risks in human factors domain, it's about that you don't want to have any changes in properties of your digital assets, of course. And these are not only data, these of course are your own, also your financial assets, as they are today very much digitalized. Also your knowledge assets, and as well as your reputational assets. We know that information, that the reputation of an organization has a huge impact on the success of the organization, following the organization's objectives. So you want that the integrity and the control about the contents of your assets, also the access rules for your assets, that they are intact, that they are not changed by any outside party, that only those can change these aspects and asset security properties who are legitimate for doing this. Regarding human factor, we have two domains we can look at. The first one, of course, is our layers, which are generally carried out by humans, which are not carried out by digital processes, in the social vulnerability layer, in the physical vulnerability layer, thinking just about access to buildings and infrastructure on premise. Also legal risks, as they have to be tackled by quite complicated legal measures, as long as they are not automated yet, and by algorithms and etc. And of course, ethical vulnerability layers. Think about disinformation campaigns, what harm they can do to an organization. And also, as we are in the context of the European Union and have to consider the European Charter of Fundamental Rights and a lot of other legal materials which are focused on protecting the integrity of every citizen in the European Union, we have to consider the physical, mental, material, social, legal, and ethical integrity of all individuals involved and which are concerned by cybersecurity measures. To give you a principal idea why this is relevant, you can think about some ideal, typical human factor cybersecurity risk mitigation strategies. The one which I think I'm very hopeful that it's getting less and less prominent in the field is the one I would call naive optimism strategy, saying, okay, what could possibly go wrong? We have to do our business and we have computers to use, but everything will be well. It shouldn't be that bad. But we know that, of course, it's one of the it's the kind of the least strategy you can follow. But there's also, on the other hand, extreme position which would say, okay, I instate a very strong and strict control and monitoring regime where I try to control every action of any individual in my organization to make sure that they don't make anything wrong. Both have their ups and downs, I guess. But what we are looking for is in the SOTER project, and which is also kind of building up from content from the project TrueSec.eu, which I was part of in the years before, is following kind of a trustworthy digital environment strategy. So because, you know, there's some different models how to implement digital service products and processes. We know there should be a European way which also considers fundamental rights and European values. And this is actually about creating a trustworthy environment. I will mention some things where this is also relevant for the success of an organization and not just an ethical matter. If you look for the basics of human factor cybersecurity risks from an organizational perspective, in SOTER we tried to do some research on what actors are actually relevant, which are the core and our focus. It's about, if you look at the possible agents which are out there who can be a source of risks, it's of course humans, it's different types of motivation behind that. So accidental, this is I think a main issue, but also deliberate actions from humans within the organization. This would be the classical insider threat. And also what we are going for, because the focus is training, is of course internal actors. We cannot change what cyber criminals doing across the world. This is a focus, I guess, would be of any project focuses on the methods of law enforcement. To give you some examples for this model, we can see different issues of employees. When we think about cybersecurity risks, we can have the incompetent employee who just doesn't have the competence to for example, identify properly a spoofed email or something like that. The careless employee who says, okay, I know there's some issues with phishing and there may be some problems, but forget it, it won't be that bad. This, of course, is the same issue. Then the stressed employee who says, like, okay, I know it's important, but I have so much work to do and I don't have the time to set up the VPN. I just have to jump in. I need to send this email. So also kind of a big cybersecurity risks. Then the disgruntled employee could have good reasons or bad reasons. My manager is a not so good man. He handles me and treats me very bad. So I don't like him. I hate this company and now I'm going to damage this company. So the next step. And the greedy employee, if I get access to these assets, I would be quite quicker and buying my dream private jet. So this is the other one. And the last one, the compromised employee, maybe for a type like, okay, think about blackmailing, or if they are indebted and they are just really don't know what to do and make some very stupid decisions on harming the organization, trying to solve their personal problems. So if you consider this in SOTER, we identified 3 areas of concern which should be tackled with this HFCR strategy. It's the one big domain is human error. So thinking about employees who don't want to cause any trouble, but who do not know better or should be explained that they should do better. So main area for training. Malicious insiders, of course, is a main threat, where training doesn't help. You cannot, the disgruntled employee knows he's doing something wrong. You have to tackle them otherwise. But there are differences, and this is important why we have these different areas of concern. I think the first and second one can be trained. The third one needs to be helped in management structures, thinking about how can I improve my management styles and my organizational performance indicators so they have enough time to work responsibly. The disgruntled employee try to find a management style which may respect their rights and them as a person. Then it gets more difficult, of course, when you need some monitoring. The greedy or the compromised employee, you can be the best employer, but the compromised employee might as well act maliciously within your organization. There's also some legal and ethical risks which extend the perspective in the SOTER project. Of course, we know regulation-related incidents, think of the GDPR, or we have a huge domain, of course, of regulations which get complicated the more time goes by, I think. And we are also often unsure how they interact with each other. Thank you again, Nora, for your presentation in the morning. I think this is enough in this regard. Also regarding disinformation and the problem and issue of public perception of an organization. In the TrueSec project, we did some research and looking at the levels of trust in digital processes and how the levels of trust are in Europe in regard to European citizens. And we've seen that there's three main areas of concern. It's cybercrime, of course, being a victim of cybercriminal activities, but also people are quite much concerned what is happening with their data when they are handled by corporate entities. This includes banks, of course, and also public institutions. So this is important because this is why I think it's really good to go for a digital trustworthy environment strategy, where it's really about respecting the people's rights to also look to enhance your trustworthiness, not just your security levels. And it also, of course, has a huge impact in regard to the acceptance of the digital solutions you're offering. Banks are more and more providers of digital solutions, and of course, they need to look at the same difficulties any other IT company offering such solutions face. So if they don't trust your services, if they feel insecure, if they are concerned about their data, they might avoid your solution. Clear factor of avoidance behavior. What you want is, of course, security behavior also with your customers, but this is the challenge actually also of training, to show people how their actions influence the possible outcomes of malicious attacks. I think one main challenge for human factor cybersecurity risk management, and I think a lot of presentations are saying this, just the one before did also, we have some trouble finding one clear taxonomy or model of different types of attacks and bringing people and organizations to use the same models, the same taxonomies. We know there's one of ENISA, but this is actually the last version is from 2016, and it's very unstructured, I think. They have two. They have also the attack vector taxonomy, and we find also some different elements which are clearly and very strongly related to human behavior, like phishing attacks, also the insider threat problematic, also information leakage, but which can be caused technically as well as caused by insiders or other people gaining access to the premises of an organization or digital assets otherwise. In regard to attack vectors, it's clear it's about attacking the human element. And but also what's interesting for me is that ENISA already has misinformation. Disinformation is a clear cybersecurity threat for organizations within Europe. So it's really about broadening the perspective, about seeing what can cause harm to your digital assets and also including them in our taxonomies. What many of us know is that in the US we can find a slightly better, or actually a lot better structured and improved taxonomy for cybersecurity, the CAPEX taxonomy classification scheme. In SOTER we worked out and tried to find those attack patterns which are clearly related to human behavior, which is not easy all the time, because there's some attempts there to have our own domain for social engineering related attacks, but there are many others somewhere hidden in the trees of different attack types, which you have to identify separately. And it is quite important to know where what belongs to which domain, because only when you know in which domain it is this type of attack or attack vector is based, you can make the right mitigation or take the right mitigation actions. Because some things you can't train, some things you can't program, some things you have to tackle the employee, some things you have to tackle cooperation with law enforcement or other financial institutions. Also thinking about all in all what I just told you, we see that regulation-related difficulties as well as public perception-related issues are not perfectly yet in those different taxonomies. And I think the main goal really would be in regard to cooperation in cybersecurity in Europe to work on this common taxonomies, and also use them, of course, for incident reporting, and maybe even have some regulatory measures in place where we see that so that they report anonymously, for example, what incidents they have. So we have some reliable statistics on what is really important, what is the dangerous, where are the dangerous, because we need to know to determine the levels of risks of each different attack and which I should tackle first and which maybe have a little bit more time. I need the levels of risks. I need the level to know how many incidents have been in the last few days, last few months, last years, and so on. I'm not sure about the time. I'm really sorry. I didn't look perfectly on it. I think maybe 5 minutes left.
Please go on, Martin. No worries about the time because we have, the buffer in the end. So
okay, thank you. Good. So the main goal in the SOTER project is that we mitigate human factor cybersecurity risks through competence training. And for us, it was really important to have a proper terminology, proper understanding what competence really means. So we really make sure that we tackle the important parts which really help build up competence and know the limiters of building up competence. So we have some typical knowledge elements we know about. Of course, people know about the awareness topic in cybersecurity. They need to build up the knowledge levels. They need to build up the skills, how to set up VPN, how to make proper passwords, how to use their personal devices when they are outside of their trusted environment, and so on. And also we have to consider, of course, their attitudes. I just mentioned before, the disgruntled employee. We just have to consider that this also has a huge impact on cybersecurity behavior. As a sociologist, of course, you also focus on what are the contexts for this principal proficiency of employees to act responsibly in regard to cybersecurity guidelines. It's the organizational processes they are embedded with. I mentioned the stressed employee, the one who has not enough time to properly and responsibly act. When we also tackle this, we can really give them the agency to enact on their knowledge and skills properly. And we also have some societal context to consider. I think going for a trustworthy strategy approach, this kind of helps, because think about the issue of the whistleblower. It's never quite sure if he's a good guy or a bad guy. It will be discussed every time a whistleblower comes up. But the main cause for a whistleblower often is that they follow some societal values. For Europe, it could be transparency, about respectful treatment of customers. And if these employees feel that these values are mistreated, are not enacted within the organization, this, of course, has an impact on their cybersecurity behavior. General, of course, in Europe, I would suggest to prevent this risk by just acting legitimately, legal, and responsibly and ethically. We also came up with this quite long definition of cybersecurity competence. The first elements I already explained. So it's about enhancing this individual and organizational aspects, as well as safeguarding the physical, mental, material, and so forth, integrity of the individuals involved. And here the last word is important. It's measurably safeguarded. So we have to take a close look on what are the components, what are the dimensions of cybersecurity competence. So we have the option to measure it, to assess it, and to see if we make any progress when we do our trainings, for example. So this is actually just a quick image of our competence catalog we developed in the SOTER project. It has, I think, it was 20 competences divided in 4 modules, and this is also used in our trainings, so we can see, like, okay, what different domains we can address, and we can also connect the training contents to the competences and can check if we have sufficiently addressed the most important competences and can measure and assess how the levels of competence rise or not. So the main risks, the main issue remains on how to mitigate human error risk is that you have to identify what to train, who to train, how to train. And we use this work we did before on the areas of concern for human factor related cybersecurity issues to see what we have to do. In SOTER, we are training employees with a dedicated cybersecurity training platform. We also will do, by the end of the project, a masterclass for the management level, because we need the awareness at the management level to help implement proper cybersecurity structures, processes, procedures, guidelines, and so forth for our organization. Here just some quick images from the SOTER cybersecurity training platform. We are using here the open source learning management system Moodle, and adapt it to the needs of the SOTER project and try to tailor specific contents for the extended finance sector, because sector specificity is very important, that the contents are really tailored to the needs of the financial sector and the typical organizational procedures and types of positions employees have in these organizations. One thing I just wanted to show is that we also go for a limited gamification approach, so that we embed the teaching on cybersecurity incidents along a storyline where trainees can make decisions and can choose which decisions they make, if they identify troublesome issues, troublesome contents or not, and they also can get feedback on the consequences of the definition of the decisions they took. There's a H5P branching scenario editor in Moodle, which we integrated as well. This can be used to make kind of complex flowcharts and storyline elements to make it a little bit more engaging also, not just having, okay, here are 10 questions, give me the answers, and then I assess it. So we can also assess the decisions they made and how well the decisions are, or how good the decisions are they made, and link them to the Competence Catalog if they made any progress and made proper decisions. This is just for an audio. As the SOTER project is still work in progress, we are a bit over the half of the project duration. And what we want to do for the masterclass is that we elaborate a quite complex flowchart for HFCR mitigation, that also on the management level, that we can show what are the critical questions you have to ask, and also show these are the consequences if you make this or that decision. Because of course, risk management is all about making decisions. And this is also where I think make the reference again to the statistics and about showing the management what are the risks involved if they make this or that decisions, and why they should make the other decision and improve the cybersecurity procedures within their organization. So with this, I thank you very much for your attention, and again for the opportunity to talk here, and I'm looking forward for any follow-up activities, discussions, questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I don't know if there is any question from Mr. Mihai Voicu, or basically my question is, who is in charge for this who do you see in charge of this in a bank? Is it the security department, the IT, or the security department, or it's human resources, or it's something, both? I mean, the training part and so on.
I guess, and of course, it's all the time, it's good to start with the CISO to talk, because in the end, he needs to have the overview over it. But the involvement, when I say a masterclass for the management levels, is of course, it's not just for IT security experts and managers, because they know what's important. I'm not telling them any news if I say phishing is an issue. They know how many phishing incidents they get reported and how many they might not get reported, and know it's really an issue. It's about also going to the uppest level, actually, of management, because they need to support IT security. And I think, of course, human factor related cybersecurity has to be embedded and combined with the classical technical based cybersecurity management you have in any organization. This is something which is also shown in presentations today, can be quite a challenging thing where you need specialized technical personnel. But generally, it's a combined effort which is needed to tackle the new cybersecurity threats.
Okay, Mihai, you wanted to ask something?
Yes, if I may.
Of course.
So, as I put it in the chat section, it's just some kind of a conclusion based on different practices of some financial and non-financial institution when dealing with the cyber risk. Well, I totally agree with common effort within the cooperation framework in preventing and combating cyber risk, including silent cyber risk. Nevertheless, we are working in a competition environment, and players from the market do have some kind of interest, and within this interest is also being able to compete effectively within the market. So from this perspective, there are some security measures, let's say specific dedicated measures which have some competition dimension in order to protect also the entity in order to achieve its financial and non-financial objectives. Thank you.
I think there are two sides to this. One side is, I think, also colleagues from other projects mentioned this in other conferences, is that when you think, do you get a competitive advantage if you're, for example, a competing financial institution, another bank has a huge cybersecurity incident? You might get it, I guess, if the customers flee from this bank and you get more customers, but overall the trust in the sector will decline. As well as if any competes, I think the cybersecurity incidents are never good, even if they're happening to the competition in the overall side of things. The other one is, of course, sharing information. We mentioned that today is an issue because no one wants that it's going into the public. You know, public discourse dynamics can be quite dangerous for the reputation of an organization. So like if you say, okay, I'm very responsible, I'm telling now the public I had an incident where I lost this and that data, be very careful, of course. That's why we need some strategies for collecting and sharing information anonymously. In Austria, we have discussed it a bit, and I think has been made a bit of progress. Of course, it's complicated, but maybe there needs to be a little more regulatory nudging in this direction, because there are solutions you can share with a research organization, for example, with a dedicated one, which just anonymously creates the statistics, and you really know very quickly. Be careful, in some financial institution, this type of attack has just happened, because you will be next. Of course, you will be next, because the criminals will try other attacks too. So this needs some regulatory push, I think, while also protecting the integrity of the organizations involved, which contribute to this knowledge building.
Okay.
I totally agree. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, Paul, but it has to be quick, you know, because
yes. No, on this point of the discussion, I think it is very critical. It is the key point, you know, the one that was just mentioned. In my opinion, you know, we could do one thing that could be done is what the medical sector does, to provide data on an aggregate level, not on the individual level. No, this cyber attack has occurred, but in aggregate form. No, this institution this month has had 3 attacks that were severe, 4 that were low severe, and I don't know, 1 that was medium. A frequency distribution, aggregate in time. I think this could be useful, in my opinion.
Thank you. So I'm clicking out. Thank you again, and looking forward for any future discussion.
Thank you, Martin, for the presentation.